What's good? Welcome. Good night, good evening, whatever the freak it is. 6 o'clock, 6:11 on the dot, Central Time. This is Knuckle Sandwich. I'm Brandon Anderson. I'm wearing the PFL shirt because we're interviewing the one of the hottest ticket guys from PFL Nashville. I'm throwing that out there because his performance was top notch in my opinion. Kevin Pease is on with us today from Memphis, and so we're going to talk to him a little bit later, but. And a lot's been going on in the MMA world. It seems like we're going to talk about quite a bit. But the big fight is this weekend, UFC 305. And I'm not a gambler. I don't really gamble a lot, but I do have a FanDuel account. So I'm going to give you my top 4 picks for this weekend, and then we're going to set a little parlay just because I'm broke. It's $1 per fight. I want to drop into the Venmo or whatever. Support my gambling habits, you can, whatever. But we're going to start off with Tai Tuivasa and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Look, anytime that a UFC card is in Australia, I'm always pulling for the Aussie boys. And Tai Tuivasa is one of my favorite guys. Now, he is on like a 4-fight losing streak right now. And I was just watching the embedded videos, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik obviously just looks like the tank that he is. So it's hard for me to pick on this fight. But... And I heard that Tai Tuivasa was training in Dubai for this camp. I'm assuming he's working on some wrestling and all those kind of things. I'm going with Tai Tuivasa. I'm not picking KO or nothing. I'm not that good at gambling and betting. So we're going Tai Tuivasa with my first pick. After that, we're going to go with Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Like I said, it's hard for me to not pick these Australian dudes. And look, I'm also no geography dude. I don't know the difference between New Zealand or Australia. Whenever they say Perth, I know it's Australia. When they say New Zealand, they've got like a similar flag and all that stuff. I just assume they're all Australian. It's close enough. But look, Dan Hooker is one of the toughest dudes on the roster. And he's got the chin of steel. His fight with Jalen Turner, this last fight was amazing. And I think that he repeats that. Gamrot, I'm not too big on. He's ranked number 5, but I feel like he was losing that fight with Aziz whenever he, ended up winning kind of by injury by accident, in my opinion. So I'm going Dan Hooker on that one as well. The co-main event, 2 heavy-hitting flyweights, Kai Kara-France and Steve Erceg. I'm big on Steve, mainly because he gets compared to Michael Scott from The Office, but I'm also big on Kai Kara-France as well. This is a pick'em for me. This was a tough one. This one's a toss-up. But I am going to go against my heart, and I'm going to pick Steve Erceg on this fight. I love Kai Kara-France, but I can't do it. I don't know. And then the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for, Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. I talked with Torres Finney a little bit last week when we were on the podcast about this fight. Both had similar visions on this fight. Dricus, I think, is just going to be too big, man. I'm a huge Izzy fan. He's probably one of my top, 8 all-time favorite fighters. I just don't know if he's going to get it done. I'm going to pick Dricus for this fight, and it hurts me to do that. So recapping, we're going Dricus, Steve, Dan, and Tai Tuivasa. I put $4 on this thing. You can win $119 if it all hits. If it does, somebody in the comment section, I'll send you $5. So there we go. Let's get to the actual reason that we're all here, though. Let's bring Kevin Pease into the interview. What's up, Kevin? How's it going, bro?
What's up, brother? How y'all doing?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm doing well. Doing even better now that you're here. The very first thing I have to ask, a lot of guys have nicknames like, the Hammer, Mark Coleman, Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman, Style Bender, like things that are kind of like intimidating and such. Yeah, Sweet Pea. Where'd the nickname Sweet Pea come from?
Man, well, my last name, my mom's of Irish descent, so my last name's Pease. And then I love boxing, watching old boxing. And Pernell Whitaker is one of my favorite. He's a southpaw like me, and just his finesse. He'd be stuck up against the ropes, and he could move his head and just evade. And he was just one of the slickest ever. So I wanted to be slick like Pernell, so I went with Sweet Pea.
I love it. I love it. Did you have that nickname before you started MMA, or was that one of these things that just started once you started training?
No, I picked it out when I went professional, I wanted to turn a new leaf. I went by Kid Savage as an amateur, and because on the wrestling mats, I was always known as that Savage. And so then I went with Sweet Pea after to get a new coat of paint and go to the next level.
I think Sweet Pea's better than Kid Savage, so I think you did the right thing by turning that new leaf right there. So let's talk about this last fight that you had, man. PFL Nashville. I got the PFL shirt on, repping you right here, mainly because I don't have any Sweet Pea merch, but I need some. So PFL
Yes,
Nashville.
sir.
Nick Meck, man, that was a tough fight for you. It was you guys both went to war the very sound of the very first bell, right? And in that first round, you faced a little bit of adversity. How much power did Nick really have in those hands, bro? Because there was a couple times I was a little worried for you.
He had a lot of power, man. He had way more than I thought. The first time I went down, it was more of I was on one leg trying to kick his lead leg. And when he hit me, it didn't hurt, but it just like the force of the punch put me to my butt. And, but after we scrambled a little bit, he got some good, really good ground and pound in. And I was able to get up to my feet and I hit him with a knee in the clinch. And I was thinking, man, I'm about to catch him with this right hook. And my hands were where they were supposed to be, and he had the same idea and big power, and he sat me to my ass, and I had to stay composed and get him back.
Uh, that fight, man, the determination of you really came through. And going into, I felt like going into that second round, I was sitting with some of the other media guys there, and my wife as well, and I was like, I think Kevin's on the rise right here. I feel like Nick really tried to put everything into the first round and tried to get you out. You had that determination, that grit, that consistency going into rounds 2 and 3, and really over showing anything that he brought to that table. Was that kind of the thought process going into round 2 as well for you after that first round? Was like, okay, I think I got him where I need him now.
Yeah, after round two or round one.
After round 1, going into 2.
Yeah, after round one of my favorite fights of all time is Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes. Just because Henry got chopped up in that first round and he came back and he ended up finishing the third. And I was going to the corner after the round ended, and I was like, man, this is going to have to be one of those kind of fights. And anytime I have that consciousness, I'm looking to put my foot on the gas and land punches, knees, elbows, kicks, wrestle, and just enforce myself on my opponent. Like, he hit hard, but that didn't stop me from exchanging with him. He was strong, but that didn't discourage me from wrestling. And I'm just looking to go and, enforce my will. And I was happy it was a great fight, but yeah, I knew I had to turn it up in rounds 2 and 3 and pull it out the fire.
Ever since you've been a pro, you've been fighting around the country, it seems like. I believe you had some in like one of the Dakotas, north or south, right? And then Mississippi as well. But training in Tennessee, this was your first Tennessee professional fight, if I'm not mistaken. How much did that play into, this fight for you? Taking this fight, like you had said earlier on off camera, on a little bit of a short notice. You got the call 3 weeks out in Tennessee. How much did that mean to you to get that win there?
It meant a lot. It was a big deal for all my friends and family in the area who can't travel around the country uh, to see me fight and just perform in front of them. It meant a lot. It made it a lot more nerve wracking. I fought in North Dakota, which was a huge building full of fans that were going crazy. I fought in Atlantic City against the Jersey boy up there where everybody hated me. But it's nothing to me is more nerve wracking than fighting in front of your mom and your wife and all your loved ones who've known you since you were a kid. So that was the most nerve wracking thing about it.
One of the funny things that I saw as well was the Chandler cam, the Michael Chandler cam. I mean, that's a teammate of yours, right? So how cool was it to have Mike Chandler there in the presence as well, giving you some feedback during the fight? Could you hear him at all during the fight?
He was one of the few people I could hear. The fight got crazy and there was a lot of voices. I could hear my opponent's coach. I could hear Michael Chandler. Um, and it just meant a lot. He's like a big brother to me. He was the one who really encouraged me to come to Kill Cliff. He really opened the doors there and showed me why it was such a high level training camp and a great place for any fighter to build themselves to take on world-class competition. So seeing him there front row, I didn't necessarily know if he was going to come or not or be available, but when I got in the cage, I saw him front row, and I was like, okay, it's time to turn up.
And you just mentioned Killcliff, right? So you train there for your camps now, and you've been doing that for a few years, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
What is it like for you training at arguably the top or one of the top five gyms in the country? I mean, you're training with guys like you said, like Michael Chandler, Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque, like all these guys that are super high level and around the same weight class. You get a lot of rounds with these guys.
I get loads of rounds with them, man. I did a lot of work with Gilbert Burns for this camp. I did work with Luque my last camp a lot. Nikita, Logan Storley, Richie Lewis, Yusaku, who's got a fight coming up soon. Um, just a bunch of great guys. Sydney Outlaw. Just the room's full of great guys that have really helped and pushed me and forced me to develop. You know, since I was wrestling in high school, I never believed in being in an easy room or an easy training environment. And Killcliff is one of the hardest rooms in the world, I believe. But it's also a globe from Eastern Europe, Brazil, America, of all different disciplines, and we all get together and pick things from each other. And we have a great coaching staff of strikers and wrestling coaches and boxing coaches. So we just get a lot of knowledge and we all lift each other up. And it's a great camp. It's made me the professional I am.
I have to ask, do you have like a top three sparring partners over at Killcliff?
Top three.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Gilbert for sure. He's the OG. He's the dog. He always has the energy. My brother Chris Boasso. He's a fighter in Combate Americas. He's my boy, another southpaw. He's helped me all my camps. He's been injured recently, but just a dog too. And then Logan Storley on his kind of the end of Bellator and his rise to the interim title and his fights with Amasov. I did a lot of work with him, helping him those camps, and I just got to learn from him so much. Someone who's so talented and strong in the wrestling and really helped get my wrestling better to fight these NAIA All-Americans and D1 wrestlers. So, yeah, those are my top three, I'd say.
Nice. So I got to know, all of your pro fights except for this last one were with CFFC. Now fighting with PFL. After that performance, did you sign a deal with PFL? I mean, being the undefeated welterweight that you are you able to get a deal?
Yeah, we got a little deal, and I'm very happy with it. Very happy with the way PFL treated me and what we were able to work out. They have a time period to, get me a fight, and they want to fight me, I'll fight, and if they want to let me go, I'll be a free agent. So we'll see what they're feeling, and I was just excited for this opportunity, and if they offered me another one, I'd be more than happy.
You don't have any fight news. How soon are you expecting to turn around?
I don't know. It could be any day, man. I'm really just before I got on here, I was doing rounds in the back with my little homie Jonathan Williams. So I'm always staying ready, working on things, looking at my last fight and tweaking things I could have done better. So whenever they call, I don't cut a boatload of weight. So whenever they call, I'm ready to rock and get in there and fight.
Nice. I can't wait to see you again. And man, I mean, impressive performance at PFL Nashville, Kevin. It was great. Lawton, let's get into these hot topics, bro. I'm ready.
All right, gentlemen. We are going to move on to our hot topic round. Kevin, we kind of gave you the little rundown earlier. This is part of the stream where we got 5 topics on the screen. I'm gonna kind of tee them up, give you all a little background, end it with a question, and then we're gonna rotate kind of back and forth. You each get 1 minute. We'll have a timer on the screen. I'll give you a little, probably 10-second warning in your headsets if you're getting close. But yeah, so we're going to just go through them. So we got the first headline of the baddie. So Patty Pimblett, everybody watching this or that will watch this should know that name, Patty the Batty. He is weeks removed from his last fight, and he is weighing in at 200 pounds, which is 45 pounds over his fighting weight. And if you've watched Patty on anything, he's a lover of fast food. He gets very out of shape and very happy when he's not in camp or training for a fight. So we're going to kind of talk about how concerning do you think those type of massive weight cuts and gains are, because Patty's the most extreme example I can think of. Everybody obviously gets a little bigger when they're not training, but Patty takes it to the extreme. So we're going to kind of talk about that. So how concerning do you think that is? And Kevin, do you want to start us off on this one?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Camera is on you. You got 1 minute. Give us your thoughts on how concerning that type of massive weight cuts and gains are. And your minute starts right now.
Man, it's very concerning. One of the biggest problems I have with where the sport is going is that there's not enough weight classes. You know, having those weight class options really can help dwindle down some of those extreme weight cuts. And, you know, it really forces guys to pick and choose whether you want to kill yourself to make a weight and be a weight bully, or you are undersized and you got to deal with a guy who's maybe in there 20 pounds heavier. You know, I chose the latter because I don't, at this point in my career, believe in cutting a lot of weight and taking away from my training and my life and all that. But Patty seems to be managing it well, and he's very successful. So just keep doing what you're doing, I'd tell him.
Very nice. With seconds to spare as well. So, all right. Brandon, same question. Patty the Batty, some pretty dramatic weight cuts and gains. Give us your thoughts on how concerning that is, and you got 1 minute starting right now.
Yeah, definitely I agree with Kevin. I think it's super concerning. And like you had said, Lawton, I can't think of anybody else that cuts, 45, 40 pounds. And I'm sure that's not like his normal walking around weight, but there is all those photos floating around on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter of what he looks like, after camp or even right before it. I mean, he's walking around 30 pounds heavier than he fights at. I don't feel like Patty is necessarily a weight bully though, because he doesn't look much bigger than most other 155ers. I think it's more so just the lack of discipline and the lack of want to stay in shape year round more than anything for him. I just hope my big concern is like his longevity of the sport, number one, but also just his health in general, because cutting 45 pounds all the time, or at least, 3 times a year, can't be that great for you.
Yeah, I know my body couldn't do that, but
Muted, Lawton.
Dang it, I did it every time. Here's the thing. I was not muted on stream. I got to get that. I got to get a better system for that.
It's fine.
It doesn't matter. All right, we are moving on to our second topic, which is titled Waiting. So, Sean Strickland's coach has come out and stated that they are comfortable and confident in waiting for a title rematch before accepting another fight. So they're kind of just sitting in the wings. So, we want to know both of y'all's thoughts. Do you agree with this decision from Sean Strickland and his team to wait for that title? Thoughts on it? So, Brandon, we're going to pass it to you to start this one. Give us your thoughts. Do you agree with Strickland and his team choosing to wait? Yes or no? Give us your thoughts. You got 1 minute starting now.
I don't think it necessarily matters if I do agree or not. I don't. Even though he's ranked number 1, and I think Dana talked about this earlier this week as well. Because he's ranked number 1, I guess doesn't necessarily mean that he's like at the top at this point in his career. I mean, you look at the rankings. The middleweight division is just in this like whole shakeup at the moment. I feel like, especially with the title fight this weekend. But you've got Robert Whittaker, that's arguably right there waiting. Mavov has been on this tear. And then you've got guys like Brendan Allen and Hermanson and Hamzat Chimaev still down there as well. A lot of killers. So, I mean, it may be beneficial to stay active. It may be beneficial to wait. Eric Nixick is one of the smartest guys, I'm sure, when it comes to coaches and strategy and thought process. So whatever he says, I'm sure they're comfortable with. But I'd like to see him stay active and get a win before the title.
Very nice. Minute on the dot. All right, Kevin, we're passing it to you. Same question. Do you agree with Strickland and his team to wait for that title fight, or title rematch more so? Give us your thoughts. You got 1 minute starting right now.
Yeah, I do think it's a great decision. You know, Sean's put in a lot of years, a lot of fights. And he's at the point in his career where everything matters. You know, one loss in this sport sets you back like 3 fights. And the money that you make as a champion is nowhere near the same money you make as a number 1 contender. And Sean got used to making that money as a champion, and I'm sure he wants that back because it changes your life. He defeated Adesanya, one of the pound-for-pound best. He had a super close fight with the Duplessis. Whereas I love Whitaker, and I think he's fantastic, but those guys both finished Whitaker. And he could risk that number 1 contender spot and lose it and never get another opportunity again. So for the fans, it might not be the best because we want to see those clashes for number 1, but for his own personal business, I think it was smart.
Very nice.
This is why I love like getting different people's perspectives, because I'm like, man, I don't even think about the championship money versus the number 1 contender money type of deal.
Yeah, that's not where
that's why I love the hot topics, baby. That's why I love hot topics.
Definitely not where my brain would have gone either, because I was like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good point actually. Wait a minute. All right, gentlemen. Moving on to the next topic, 3-time. So many fighters have backed Alex Pereira in his goal of being a 3-division champ, while Dana White is not very keen on that thought. So the question is, how likely do you think Pereira will become the first 3-division champ? Kevin, you want to start this one off for us?
Yeah.
All right, man. Give us your thoughts. You got 1 minute. Do you think, or how likely do you think Pereira will become the first 3-division champ? Your 1 minute starts right now.
Sadly, I don't think he'll become the first 3-division champion. I think Dana has his mind made up about it, and he doesn't want to create that opportunity. But I think it's a shame because I really think he's one of the guys who's put the resume together and is capable of doing that from middleweight to heavyweight. And I do think he has a good shot against John Jones and against Aspinall. I know the wrestling skills is somewhere that he lacks in, but his striking ability and his power and the guys he's put away, you know, you got to put him in there. And I think it's just a shame he won't get that opportunity.
Very nice. Didn't even need a full minute, over 20 seconds to spare. Brandon, it's your turn. Can Pereira do it? Can Pereira become the first 3-division champ? Give us your thoughts. You got a minute starting now.
I think if there's anybody on the active roster that can do it, it's 100% him. And I do agree with Kevin. I think that sadly, Dana's not going to allow it to happen until John Jones retires, because he does not want to put John Jones in that position to where if he loses, then he looks like an idiot. That's just my thought. Kevin, I don't know if you've watched the podcast at all, but I hate John Jones. Big John Jones hater. And so this topic always comes up. Leading back to the 3-time, though, Alex, I truly believe, I mean, he got the middleweight championship, got the light heavyweight championship. I think, like you said, against John, against Tom, I mean, if for some reason if Stipe beat John and stuck around, I think he'd beat Stipe. I mean, I think he's got a swinging chance against any of these heavyweights because he's got the power, and I can't imagine how he would be at 20, 30 pounds even heavier, not having to cut that much weight and things like that. So 3-time, but not until Dana lets go of the leash of John Jones.
Yep, that'll be the deciding factor on that one probably.
Freaking Dana White.
I do love how John has been getting brought up like every time we do a stream.
Every show.
Oh yeah,
every show
something to talk. Yeah, there it is. All right.
There it is.
All right, gentlemen. Moving on to our 4th topic, Iron Mike. So Michael Chandler has stated that he is willing to move on from the McGregor fight. That's when did that start? Was that about 2 years ago? This whole fiasco, 1.5 years?
No, not that long ago. They're supposed to fight this year, right? Last year?
Wasn't that like the 3rd rematch, though? It doesn't matter. That's my dumb side coming in. All right. So Chandler said he's willing to move on from McGregor, and he believes that Oliveira is the right guy to match up against. So what are your thoughts on Chandler moving on, and do you think Oliveira is the right guy? Kevin, we'll pass this one to you because you got you might have some insider information on this topic now that since you train with Chandler. So Give us your thoughts. What are your thoughts on him moving on? And do you think Oliveira is the right guy for Michael Chandler? You got 1 minute starting now.
If Mike likes the Oliveira fight, I think that fight's huge. Of course, Oliveira is one of the all-time greats, most finishes in UFC history. The comeback king. He can knock you out. He can submit you. And Mike's a living highlight reel himself. So that's a banger fight. I'd personally like to see him against Nick Diaz. I think that'd be a very great, entertaining fight. Who else? Bobby Green. I'd love to see him and Bobby Green go at it. I've already seen the Oliveira fight. I liked it. I think it'd be a great another one, but I just want to see more parity and more styles match up for Mike.
Very nice.
Right. I think he could do great at 170 as well.
Okay. All right. I like it. All right. Brandon.
Two names that I never even thought about with Mike Chandler there.
No,
never even thought about those two.
Wouldn't cross my mind. I like it though. All right. Brandon, what are your thoughts on Chandler moving on? And do you think Oliveira's the right guy? You got 1 minute starting right now.
Yeah. Lawton, me and you have had this conversation many times in the car, driving to fights and stuff. Like, we're both big Michael Chandler fans, right? Yep. And the hard part is Mike is not in the title picture at the moment in the UFC. Even though we want him to be, he's not. And so, the good fight for him to take is the McGregor fight 100% because it's the money fight. You're going to get a big bag from that, right? I do like the move to 170, though, because he's a stout dude. I almost said stout little guy. I can't say that. He's a stout dude. And one name that I do like at 170, I guess there's two names, really. I would love to see him fight Colby, just because I don't like Colby Covington. I would love to see him fight Colby Covington. That, but also, too, I would love to see him fight Jeff Neal, because I think Jeff Neal has that power, too, that would be like them two guys throwing hands, because Mike is always down for a stand and bang war as well. So he's proven that at 155. I'd love to see it at 170 as well, too. I hope that he fights McGregor at some point. I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if Oliveira is the right choice, but there's some fights out there.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice, gentlemen. Well, that concludes the 4 topics. Brandon, since you're already on screen, you want to take over for Mount Rushmore?
What about Joaquin Buckley and Mike Chandler? Does Joaquin train at Kill Cliff?
He does, and he's one of our biggest haters. He's fought a couple guys. We've beat him, we've lost to him. So he's one of the guys who likes to call Kill Cliff out, but he can always get the smoke.
Joaquin Buckley and Michael Chandler? I don't know if that's not a bad fight.
God, who did I just think of? And I lost it.
I'm just looking at 170 guys now, and I'm like, man, you got Michael Venom Page, even though MVP is just so long and lanky, that would be some hard stuff for Mike there, but
Michael Chandler, Drew Dober.
Yeah.
That'd be a banger.
Rafael Fiziev.
Fiziev would be a banger.
Oh. I'm just thinking about guys that'll just stand and throw, honestly.
He's a problem, the power, the wrestling. I think his cardio goes up at 170.
Yeah.
I think it goes up. So I think the move to 170, I know they did it just for the McGregor fight, but I think him and Conor would look better at the weight without taking so much out of themselves.
And the issue, too, I guess, is Mike has fought basically the whole entire top 6 or top 5 at 155 already. And if you're Mike Chandler, you got that big of a name and that big of a highlight reel, you don't really want to be fighting. He's like,
him and Max. I like that one, too.
See, that would be a great fight, too. Who you got for Ilya versus Max?
Oh, I love Max. I'm a huge Ilya fan. He came to Kill Cliff. I got to meet him. Nice. He's got the swag. He's got the energy.
He's got the hands too.
Got the hands. I got to go with Ilya. I like it. I like the fresh blood. But if Max wins, I would not be surprised at all.
Bro, if Max wins, the world flips on its head and everybody's excited again. It's going to be great. Last question, Kevin. Mount Rushmore, your top 4 greatest of all time. Doesn't have to be John Jones. You can take him out if you want to. I won't hate on you. But your top 4 all time.
My Mount Rushmore for me, first, Demetrius Johnson. I think he is the master of all the phases of MMA, from long range to clinch to the grappling, kicking, punching, elbows, knees. I think he's the best fighter to ever live and put it all together, skill set wise. Khabib, my personal favorite fighter, I put him at number 2. I think he's the most dominant fighter of all time. You know, they talk about his title defenses a lot, but the guys he went through to even get to the title, and then the defenses he had against, and then the fashion that he destroyed them all in, never been dropped, never bled, never been cut. And then his innovation with the ground and pound, his striking doesn't get enough credit. So I put Khabib as number 2. For me, Daniel Cormier is on there, number 3. The double champ status, you know, besides Stipe, was undefeated at heavyweight. His championship run at light heavyweight, only losing to John Jones, who, as everybody knows, has popped multiple times. And so to me, that kind of, I don't know, it puts asterisks on your resume, of course. And I just love DC, and great teammate, great coach, and all those things. And then number 4, I would have to say Tyron Woodley. I think he's one of the most underappreciated welterweight champions of all time. The eras he competed against, you know, the new generation with guys like Colby and Gilbert and Luque and Usman. He dominated his era, you know, with Till, the Wonder Boy fights, Damian Maia, knocking out Robbie Lawler. And then the old guard, Carlos Condit, the great fight him and Josh Koscheck put on. You know, even some of the ones he lost, Jake Shields and Roy McDonald. I mean, the guy fought everybody. He, you know, I think he could have gone up to 85 and given those guys some problems if given the opportunity. I know he gets a lot of hate, but I think he's one of the best for me.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. You said Tyron Woodley. I forgot about Tyron Woodley at this point, but like you said, Jake Shields, Koscheck, Condit, McDonald, Gastelum, Lawler, Thompson, Maya, Till, Usman, Burns, yeah, Covington, Luque. That's tough.
Fought them all.
That's
A lot
tough.
of these guys, you know, they get the bell, and when they kind of wash out, they just go off into the sunset. But he kept giving the young guys opportunities to fight him and compete and even beat him. And I think that's honorable.
100%. 100%. Kevin, this has been an absolute joy. I'm so glad that you got on with us. At the end of every show, I give the fighter a chance to just give some shout-outs. If you got some, you know, people at home, sponsors, all those things. So the floor is yours, my man. Give your shout-outs, and I'll let you get on your way.
Yeah, shout out to my sponsors for my last fight, Raw Farms and Desi Saturdays. Those guys helped me out through camp with expenses and all that. You know, everything matters for us because doing this ain't cheap, and the support is really appreciated. Shout out to my management, MAG Agency. Shout out to my gyms, Killcliff FC and Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, for helping me with all my training needs and supporting me through these fights. Shout out to my coaches, Henry Hoof, Greg Jones, Saeed, and then Ricindo Sanchez and Greg Choplin. Those last two aren't with Killcliff, but they put in so much time with me as individuals, and I couldn't do it without this whole team of support. And, of course, my family, my wife, my mother, my son, you know, the best motivation you could have.
100%. Well, Kevin, I appreciate you again coming on. I can't wait for some fight news, hopefully soon, man. So staying active, staying ready, and ladies and gentlemen, just watch out for Sweet Pea. He'll be coming to a town near you. You never know.
Thank you, brother, for the opportunity.
Thanks, bro.